We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
So welcome, folks. I am Eric.
I am Tig.
We are joined by
Keith Hernandez.
Keith Hernandez is in the building, folks.
Bootsy the Fearless. We're the Nerd Out With Me podcast, where every week we advance forward a month in time through the 1990s, Tig.
Till 1999.
December of 1999.
Is that where the decade ends?
I think so, right? Is it a leap year or something?
Possibly.
Leap month?
Leap month.
And so each week we talk about what's going on during that particular month of the 90s. This week we are in June of 1991.
Ooh, it's getting hot up here.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I feel like we're getting into the interesting times.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank
I think
goodness.
this is,
Yeah, there's some good stuff.
I've been waiting 18 podcasts for this actual podcast.
This podcast,
Yes,
which
in
is
particular.
amazing to me. So before we get to the topics this week, you can find out a little more about us at nerdoutwithme.com. And yeah, that's it. Now we'll get to the topics. See, so that was quick and easy. This week we're going to be talking about in June of 1991, a little video game called Sonic the Hedgehog debuted.
Never heard of it.
Kind of a big deal, maybe a little bit.
Oh, Eric is so excited.
We'll see. We're also going to be talking about a little bit of news of the day, specifically a very tiny parade that happened. We'll talk about that. And in our bonus segment for Patreon subscribers, we're going to talk about video game rentals and memories of renting video games.
Oh, that's cool.
And we will also talk about...
Wait, I'm a little bit disappointed there.
Yeah, see,
he did
this
on purpose.
He's already complaining.
The whole reason I've been waiting.
And in our first segment, we are going to talk about...
Everything I do,
Oh, God, that song.
do it for you.
Ruined a perfectly good pop rock artist. We're going to be talking about the Kevin Costner movie Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which for some inexplicable reason Tig loves.
I love it.
And I have toys for it up here.
Yes, I was very excited and I found them up here.
Yeah, so come back in a moment and we're going to talk about that bullshit.
He gave the people the courage to fight.
Shit, that actually reminds me. This, I ended our recent Patreon bonus episode with about 40 seconds to a minute or so of a little song called South Philadelphia. and
paying big time for that.
I forgot.
Well, this is awkward.
Bootsy, I'm sorry. How much do we owe you?
That is between my lawyer and your lawyer.
Oh man. Yeah, see?
Right.
See? A movie was released that for some reason people in Hollywood approved this to get made. It was starring Kevin Costner, who at the time was pretty gigantic.
Really?
Right?
He had been for at least 5 years or
Yeah.
so.
He was fresh off Dances with Wolves, I think, 1990.
Academy Award
Fair
winner.
to say this was his greatest movie of all time.
Morgan Freeman was in it. Everyone loves Morgan Freeman.
Damn Indian English
Christian Slater was in it for some reason.
He was a hot, Queen
That's
of the
right.
Cube.
We also just talked about Christian Slater. Pump Up the Volume.
Pump Up the Volume.
And of course, Snape, Alan Rickman as the Sheriff of Nottingham. We of course talking about Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which Tig loves for some damn reason.
I'm going to tell you why. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. Because I was going to throw it to Bootsy first so he could
Yeah,
insult
go
you
ahead.
right off the
Go
bat.
ahead.
But no. You should make the case first so we can rip it apart.
Well, let me just say this first. I have no interest in hearing why you like this movie.
Alan Rickman is is mostly why I like this movie.
He's always awesome.
He's great in it, and if you just watched his scenes, he's freaking great in this movie. He is the reason. If he wasn't in it, it would have been a terrible movie.
So you love Alan Rickman? You don't?
I
love
love
the movie.
Alan Rickman in this movie. It's not that I like Kevin Costner. Think about it. Every Kevin Costner movie you've ever seen, nobody remembers Kevin Costner.
That's not true.
Waterworld?
Bull Durham.
Okay, Bull Durham,
yeah.
I'll give him that. But Waterworld, do you really think of Kevin Costner in Waterworld, or do you just think of everything going on?
I blame him
you think
for
of,
it.
Think of what's her name?
Yeah, and you think of Dennis Hopper.
or whatever. I can't remember her name now.
Dances with
Gene
Wolves.
Tripleford.
You got to think of Kevin Costner in Dances with Wolves.
It's true.
Okay, but he's in most of the scenes.
He's one of
for
two
Dances
guys,
with
two
Wolves.
men in it. Yeah, right. And he directed it. And
I have to say, I loved Dances with Wolves, especially the 4-hour version. I love it.
Yeah, the director's cut.
And
But aside from Kevin Costner not being the only one without an English accent, no, I think Christian Slater doesn't have an English
He has-
accent either.
Kevin Costner has
No,
an
he does.
Who? Christian
Me,
Slater
he
does?
cleared it, right? He's got like a slight
Oh,
one,
he's like,
right?
oh, what a dope! He slipped on a rope.
you
Now
go.
look at him shiver.
Yeah, no accent at all. No accent whatsoever.
Kevin Costner has an English accent during some lines.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, he slips in and out.
Right. He's just not good at
And
accents.
Morgan Freeman's really good in that movie, by the way, too.
He's good in everything, basically.
Yeah.
But Kevin Costner is really bad at accents. He's like he had that Massachusetts accent in what was it, 13 Days, the JFK, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that's
he
right.
did. Yeah, yeah.
did he have an accent in JFK?
Yeah.
And it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, like real bad.
Yeah, I
But-
can't remember. Actually, JFK is on one of our future show notes.
Oh, speaking of
Because it comes out at the end of 91.
I was thinking of no. He had that other one about the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's what I was talking about.
No,
And
13
I-
Days.
Yeah, 13 Days. But JFK, I forgot. That's another one you have to think
Yeah.
of Kevin Costner when you think of JFK.
I guess so.
Did he
There's
have
a lot
did
of
he
I
have
like
an
that
accent
movie.
in The Postman?
I've never
I don't
seen
remember.
I don't think.
I saw The
remember.
Postman once. I was so super disappointed in it because I was a fan of the book.
it. Yeah. Was Tom Petty in the book too, as himself?
As him, yes, he absolutely was.
But what did this movie cost to make, and what did it gross? Because nobody
it
can
was-
deny that it wasn't huge, and Bryan Adams' song.
No, I think it was huge.
Sure, no one's arguing how much money it
A
made.
little fact I do know
no one
about
said it bombed.
about the Bryan Adams movie is that he originally wrote that movie as a Western themed. That song as a Western themed song.
Wow!
I didn't think-
Wow, the movie was huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Its production budget was $48 million,
Wow.
which back
Which
in
is a lot.
91,
That's
91 was a lot.
especially for
Worldwide, it took in $390 million. That would be successful now.
yeah.
You know what? You know what it was?
Just domestically, it took in 165. That's amazing.
You know why? At least $100 million of that was that shot of his bare ass.
The waterfall.
You know how many women? You know how many middle-aged women just flocked to the theater to see that?
What a,
Here's
what
a
is
knock against the movie. Its runtime was 2 hours and 23 minutes.
It was long.
Did it need to be 2 hours and 23
Yes,
freaking
it needed
minutes?
to be 3 hours. It was. It
It didn't need to be made.
That's a good point. I can't.
You could do a quick. I'm telling Alan Rickman his line. Like you don't. I don't know when the last time you guys saw it, but the movie was one of those. It was one of those rare. This sounds stupid. Rare Kevin Costner.
Everything you
movies.
said about this movie sounds stupid.
I'm trying here, Bootsy.
You say
It's
like
one of those rare movies with Kevin Costner where there was actual. There's joking in it. There's actual. It's when he's trying to use the magnifying glass. He's pointing the sword and the thing. And,
All his movies
all
have
of Alan
bad-
Rickman's lines are kind of like when he's with the two prostitutes or whatever, and he's like, "You 12 o'clock, you 12:30, bring a friend."
You notice how he can just rattle off scenes
Oh,
that
hell
like,
yeah.
oh, remember this scene and, that
Christmas
scene and
is
this scene.
canceled.
I know.
He watches. How many times do you
and
think?
cancel Christmas.
You
Twice
know
a
every
year.
line. Yeah. Twice. How many times have you seen this movie?
At least 20, 30 times.
Wow.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Holy shit!
I really liked it. I really liked Alan Rickman and Morgan. I loved them in this
20,
movie.
30 times.
I'm a huge Alan
Movies that
Rickman
I
fan.
love, I don't
Yeah.
watch 20 and 30
Yeah.
times.
I don't think I've seen a single movie 20 or 30
That's-
times.
I think
It would be very
It-
few that
it
actually
happened
would
to
get
be-
to be that
it was
much.
because
Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, maybe. at
Die
most.
Hard was one of the first movies that I saw Alan Rickman in, and I thought he was amazing.
I've got to see Gruber again.
Yeah, and when he popped up in this, and I was like, he's amazing. Like, I really like Alan Rickman.
But
in
you
this
didn't.
Movie.
But you didn't watch the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I
You
did.
told me before we were on some.
I didn't see all of them.
No. We were on some show
But
and
it's
you were
different
like,
because Alan Rickman. I love Alan Rickman in the Harry Potter movies, but Alan Rickman is Robin Hood. He's the reason that movie's good.
no. Kevin Costner is right.
Well, you know what I mean. He's the reason the movie's good.
You've seen this movie 23 times? You didn't realize that
What is
Kevin
your
Costner played Robin Hood?
that is
What?
amazing. I've never met anyone in my life who thinks fondly of this movie. Period. Now I'll have an admission to get to in a moment.
Right.
Now, I never met anyone who thinks fondly of this movie. Period. All these years later, but someone who actually like
I'm
rewatches
going to
it
tell you
purposely.
I'm going to tell you right now. Not only do I own the DVD
VHS, clearly on the
and the VHS.
Okay,
Blu-ray?
No, I don't have. I don't even know if there is a Blu-ray. I mean, I
I've
guess
got
there
the
is, but I don't
3
have a
disc
Blu-ray.
deluxe
16
set with
millimeter.
But I have it on 8 and 16 millimeter.
16 hours of extras,
But I'm
director
going to tell you
commentary.
right now, if I went home tomorrow and it popped on like a two, I would watch it.
Amazing. That is amazing. Now I'll say this.
It's fodder. It's good fodder.
I used to, maybe I still do, but I don't think I do. I used to own it on VHS. And I own it because at the time I had such a hunger for movies that involved like people with swords,
right.
like in the woods
genre.
doing shit, right? Exactly. So at the time I saw it and I was like, "Yay! A movie with like bows and arrows and swords! Yay! All right, great." And I got it on VHS because it was like the only thing that existed that was like that. It was one of the very few ones. I mean, even like Dragonheart. I watched Dragonheart. And,
I am the last one.
And Dragonheart is objectively terrible.
But that was real bad.
But at the time, there wasn't anything out there. So, but then once stuff started coming out, it was like, I don't need this shit in my life anymore.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I still need it.
Apparently you do.
You're out of your mind. I saw that movie about 10 years ago, and I'm like, oh, I'll watch this. I remember liking this as a kid. I watched it. I'm like, what the hell am I looking at?
Yeah.
And a scene where, like, the witch, or whatever. Who plays the witch? Who's the actress?
Yeah, who is that?
Was that Mary Elizabeth
No, she's the beautiful...
no, she's Maid Marian.
But, and, like...
Is it when
Morgan Freeman busts open the door and throws
and she's like, he throws like his sword at her.
I'm like, what the fuck is this? This movie's so fucking bad.
Oh, it's so great.
Part of my language.
Mike McShane as Friar Tuck. Oh, whatever. Just whatever. You know what? Yeah.
Let's end it now. I've heard enough.
It's one of the best Robin Hood movies ever made.
One of the best?
The most...
Can you name a better Robin Hood movie?
The animated one. The Disney animated one.
Fair enough.
You know what? On that note,
the Disney one
the
is
first
better.
thing off the top of my head.
The Rooster is better than most of the...
Amazing. You know what? On that note, we're going to come back in a minute to talk a little bit of... All right, welcome back, folks. June 23rd, 1991 is probably the biggest date in video game history.
Can I open up this can?
Of course.
Yeah.
The sound of cans opening is
constant.
fine on here.
Okay.
June 23rd, 1991. I may have exaggerated it slightly, but it was a pretty big day in video game history. That is when Sonic the Hedgehog came out for the Sega Genesis. I don't think I need to explain who and what this is, but I'll give it a little context anyway. Sega had been looking for a mascot for some time. They had tried a couple of things, the little Oopa Oopa flying thing, which most people don't realize was at one time like the Sega mascot. Then Alex Kidd.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Alex Kidd.
Alex Kidd from the Master System days was the mascot, but no one could compete with Mario. Absolutely no one could. Right. So eventually Sonic the Hedgehog came about. And while in the long term, he hasn't actually competed with Mario as far as being a mascot, for the short term, he definitely did. Sonic sort of took over the world.
Yeah.
These games were huge, and I feel like kind of rightfully so. The first 3 Sonic the Hedgehog games were pretty flippin' awesome.
Yeah. People tend to rewrite history about Sega and Super Nintendo, but they were neck and neck as Sonic and Mario at that point. Yeah. Mario has built a legacy that is obviously far greater than Sonic the Hedgehog, but going back to it, as guys who lived during that era, it was kind of... There was no clear frontrunner. I guess you could say Mario was the frontrunner, but it wasn't a clear frontrunner.
No, definitely not. When Sonic hit, I mean, I feel like this game and the character sort of took everyone by storm, and it was like, oh shit, Mario's done.
I would argue that I feel like at least that for most people it went NES to Sega. Most people had an NES, and then people got Sega instead of SNES.
Because the Genesis came out during that gap.
Yeah, so
the SNES
people
came out a few years later.
At least all my friends and me and my brother and stuff, we went from Nintendo to Sega, and Sonic was like the big thing. Until Mario 3 came out and stuff like that.
Or World. The next one would have been World.
But Sega was big.
I can tell you why I got a Sega, because I was so bitter as a kid at blowing the dust out of my games and trying to get the Nintendo games to work. Yeah. Where I'm like, I think I'm done with Nintendo.
Putting cartridges on top of other cartridges, like at the same time.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm like, hey, in Sega Genesis, I think it was reverse compatible, right? You could play the old. They had like.
There was an add-on that you can do to play the Master System.
So I'm like, this. I'm gonna try something new here. I'm gonna abandon Nintendo for the time being and
Yeah.
go to Genesis.
I think one of the things, I mean, and obviously everybody talks about this, but I know for me, it was certainly big. Sonic was blisteringly fast.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
you know, platformers at that time, the ones that weren't heavily influenced by Mario, which mostly they all were, but they tended to be slow and precise and difficult. You had to be an absolute master to do it. Sonic, you could sort of blitz your way through these levels without even knowing the level ahead of time, at least for the first few levels. Later,
Right.
they got
Yeah,
harder as
yeah,
they went
yeah.
on. But initially, you can just blast your way through and, like, with that ring system.
Yeah, where you weren't automatically dead if you hit something. Yeah,
Right. And I loved that about it, because
Yeah.
if you screwed up, the rings would go all over the screen and it would slow down to like 3 frames per second. And you'd scoop up some rings and just keep going.
The lag.
And I loved the idea
Yeah, that was
you
a good design,
Yeah.
an original design.
I think that what you're saying about Sonic being faster than Mario, I think that Genesis kind of took that identity and ran with it. They had, I was going to say Genesis, but that's not true, because I think that was like kind of the appeal. Like Super Nintendo had F-Zero, which
Yes.
I remember the television commercial had. It compared shots of F-Zero, like like ripping
Yeah.
guitar, and they're flying around, and like Mario Kart, where it's like boom, 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 and it's like.
Cool.
So I think that was kind of like Sonic really kind of brought that need, just that like that high adrenaline
The
kind
need
of
for speed.
Just as a quick preview, you say F-Zero, and actually that is in our show notes for 2 episodes from now.
Okay.
We'll be talking about that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, you're definitely right that Sega kind of took that aesthetic and injected it into all their advertising. You remember Sega?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
insanity. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go as far. I know it was 2 months later. I'm gonna go as far as to say that F-Zero was Nintendo's response to the insanity, the rapid insanity of Sonic the Hedgehog.
To some extent it was. Yeah, it's
Adrenaline rush.
I played Sonic games through 3, and I know I played Sonic and Knuckles, but that wasn't one that I was like big into. And then
Yeah.
by the time Sonic and Knuckles came out,
I wasn't either. Yeah.
I kind of faded away from consoles in general. And then by the time I came back to consoles with the Dreamcast, Sonic was kind of dead by then.
Sega in general.
Yeah,
Well,
that's-
Dreamcast. You said you're right.
Yeah, I mean the Dreamcast was amazing to me.
Yeah, I love the Dreamcast.
Best system of the time and one of the best of all time, but it failed clearly, and there was no good Sonic games that existed
No.
by then.
I will tell you this briefly. My favorite Sonic game ever, and I've played. After Sonic and Knuckles, I stopped, and I've even played the spin-offs like the Sonic Spinball or which isn't that great of a game, but I still enjoy it. But the Game Gear version of Sonic the Hedgehog was amazing. I loved it. It was my favorite one. It was awesome.
I'm so glad that you say that, and that you said it unsolicited, because we talked about the Sega Game Gear some episodes back.
Really?
And I pointed out that some of the games, even the ports, were different, and the Sonic was one of them.
Yeah,
where it wasn't a port of the Genesis version. It was
its own.
Yeah, it's its own game, and it was great.
It was awesome. I loved it. It was my favorite one. My favorite Sonic game is the Game Gear one.
I could completely understand that. It had
Yeah.
some really great levels in there.
Yeah.
Did you have the TV receiver for your game?
No, I wasn't that rich or anything.
We talked about that on one of the episodes, how amazing of an idea that was.
Yeah, right.
One of the other things I liked about Sonic games is that the levels were sort of multi-tiered levels.
Yeah.
You could take the upper route or the middle route or the lower route, and there were
Lots of
options.
hidden treasures and whatnot.
So any stats on I'm just curious how many it sold or how it ranks in the original one.
Let's see now. Edit out silence. I don't have
Daddy!
I don't have sales stats. I don't have sales
No?
stats immediately in front of me. Which is kind of weird. You'd think they would they would have that. They would have that on
Maybe
here.
it's hard to
Is
track.
it fair to say that Sonic is basically I wouldn't say save Sega, but cause Sega to become such a big console? Like, if it wasn't for Sonic, do you think Sega would
Do
have
they
hung on?
owe their success to Sonic?
Yeah.
I would say so. I mean, Sega was great Sega Genesis was great with the sport games.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
Madden and whatnot. But
I mean-
he was the mascot. They
That's
found a
what I mean,
successful
like-
mascot.
Like, you could technically say... I think people could argue that if Mario never existed, Nintendo would not be as popular, but it would have
Sure.
survived. They had Zelda, they had
Well,
Metroid, they had like these other games that would have held them up for a while. But Sonic, without Sonic, do you think Sega would have? I mean,
Well, potentially-
you're a Sega guy, so
Zelda might not have existed without Mario because they were both Miyamoto, and would he have had?
Right, but
would
I
he,
mean,
would he have been given the opportunity to make a game as ambitious as Zelda if Mario hadn't been successful? Probably not, because Zelda was completely different than anything that had come out at the time. The Genesis was already successful by the time Sonic came out.
yeah. But Sonic is when
But-
most people.
But yeah, Sonic blew it up big.
I mean,
It's-
it coincides. You know.
yeah, definitely.
It's like McDonald's and Ronald McDonald. It's
Right.
It's so I looked up some sales numbers while you guys were talking, and it's interesting. The numbers sound really sort of infinitesimally small.
Compared to now.
Excuse me, but yeah, I guess
dying.
you got to put it in context. According to video game charts, Sonic the Hedgehog sold 4.3 million copies.
That's a lot, though. Back
that time?
then?
For that time, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Think about like an album. If an album sold 1 million records,
That's-
Yeah,
it's an artist,
4.5.
That's true. No, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah,
That's a lot.
And video games are twice as expensive, as albums. So
I mean, I guess I'm used to now a big game sells 10 million
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
more people.
right.
Yeah, of course. Video games now are mainstream in a way that they definitely weren't in 1991.
Wow, 4.5.
Yeah, so not bad. Do you did I know Boots, you said that you continued to play through Sonic and Knuckles. Did you?
No, not Sonic and Knuckles. I didn't.
Oh, I didn't do that one.
Yeah, I didn't play that one.
I want to say I
They-
have.
My brother did.
I have Sonic on my phone. Right
Oh,
now.
yeah?
It's great. It's a hard game, but it's.
And they just
you got
oh.
that picking up the yeah.
Sega.
I'll
That's
stop
so
with that.
great.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's hard to play on the phone, but
Yeah, I imagine.
And
so.
they just re-released it. It's on Xbox, right? They had the arcade. They released
probably.
like all of them just recently.
Sonic's on everything. I remember back in the original Xbox days, they had put out a Sonic the Hedgehog collection.
Yeah,
Which
I think they redid
which
it
I loved,
again.
because it had everything on there,
Right.
including a lot of the little obscure ones like Sonic Spinball, which you mentioned, and some of the others. And I loved that collection. Unfortunately, like an idiot, when I sold my original Xbox, I sold that.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
So I kept for 360 the another one that was called like the Sonic Collection or something, because that one had a bunch of different Sega games, Phantasy Star and a bunch of the other stuff. But I got rid of the other one, and that one had a few Sonic games that aren't on the other collection.
So did you beat the original Sonic?
Yes.
Did you beat the original Sonic?
come on.
Get out of my face.
It's fair enough. Yeah, I definitely beat
Okay.
it legit. Probably not in,
The same speed as.
Well, I don't know. I was a kid when I did it.
Yeah,
that's true.
So it took them,
You hadn't developed the savant skills just yet.
That's when I was developing.
Yeah, that's right.
Idiot savant.
Yeah, I know I beat 1, 2, and probably maybe 3. I don't remember if I beat 3. And then yeah,
and then after you felt, then you started playing PC games though.
yeah,
right?
yeah. Because then it gets into life stuff. Because then various things were happening in my life, and I didn't have a console with me, and I wasn't into them.
Yeah.
And when I got back into gaming after a gap away from gaming, I went to the
Right.
PC as opposed to consoles. But yeah, it was good stuff, and Sonic was a pretty big deal.
Hey, I like him.
As well you should. So folks who have Sonic memories and all that jazz, the deal. Say stuff in the boxes.
Say stuff.
Say stuff. So we'll be back in a minute to say bye. Alright, we're back, yo. To
Yo.
wrap things up. We're sitting here with Bootsy Spankins.
How are you? Hi.
Yay.
Keith Hernandez.
Yeah, that's right.
Woohoo.
Visually, Keith Hernandez.
Well, yeah.
Spiritually, Bootsy Spankins.
People can't tell. That was June 1991. I feel like that went okay, right?
Yeah.
I guess.
Are you feeling sad about it?
I'm feeling sad about the fact that you watched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves 30 times in your life.
At least.
At least.
Don't sell it short.
No, that is something fair to be sad about. Definitely so. But you know what?
I might watch it tonight when I go home.
Oh, God. I forgot about this the other episode, but hand me a lot. Yeah, are we on video? Yeah, you could.
Oh yeah, here you go.
Yeah, so this thing, for people who are listening, you'll have to check YouTube for it, or maybe you'll know what I'm talking about. But we've got here a Super Mario World Pixel Pals of Mario that we're giving away. So we're giving this thing away. Leave a comment on our Patreon page or our YouTube or somewhere else. Every comment on each individual spot is an entry, and November 15th we're going to decide on a winner. So there's that.
What if the person who says that, who makes the best argument for why Sonic is better than Mario, will they win that?
I'll give them.
I'm thinking of you.
You know what?
I have nothing to do with this contest.
That's a good suggestion. You will get 2 entries if you make. You will make. That's official.
Okay.
2 entries if you make an argument why Sonic is better than Mario.
Ooh.
Put it. Enshrine it.
You win a Mario prize. If
You guys say Mario, huh? Not Mario.
Yeah, Mario.
And you're Italian as hell, right?
When I heard commercials for the games and it'd be like Mario, me and my brother would be like, "What? That's how it's pronounced, Mario?
Mario."
Do you say Mario?
I used to say Mario, and at some point I just heard Mario so many times that I stuck with it.
It's Mario, people.
That's right. So for you Patreon listener type folks, if you tune in, we are going to be talking about video game rentals from 1991, memories of renting video games and all that sort of BS. Next week, we actually got some kind of cool stuff to talk about next week. Boys in the Hood came out in July of 1981. A video game, Lakers vs. Celtics, came out.
Oh, I love it.
And we got to talk about that because that was sort of the dawn of the true good sports game.
Are you strictly Genesis? Do you talk about any Nintendo games?
No, we've done lots of Nintendo.
Yeah.
I find that very hard to believe.
I'm
just busting your shot. I love Genesis. I was a Genesis guy.
He does his best to pigeonhole.
We're in a gap period right now where the Super Nintendo hasn't come out in North America yet.
Good point.
Now, and fair, look, it's funny you say that because the August 1991 episode, in other words, folks, 2 weeks from now, is all SNES.
Okay.
It's strictly wall-to-wall Super Nintendo. And that's
oh, look at that.
And
I'm looking at it. I don't even want to say it out loud.
That's completely true. It's all Super Nintendo.
That's going to be a great episode.
So there's that. We're also talk about a little news from July 1991 next week. So there's that. And that's right. And the big one. You know what came out in July 1991, Tig? A movie did.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
A movie
came out every month.
God, wouldn't that be like
a movie
heaven?
directed by James Cameron?
It was like the highest grossing film.
Oh,
Terminator 2, bitch!
Oh my God.
So we're going to talk about Terminator 2.
Even give me a chance.
F you and your chances. So there's that. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Boots, for being here with
Bootsy.
Of course.
Keith, I mean.
Keith.
No, it's not Halloween anymore. Well, actually, though, this will be airing very close to Halloween.
Yes.
But this isn't visual.
I am dressed like this.
Well, it is visual. He's right there.
He's dressed like this most days of his life.
Yeah, certainly. I've certainly worn this hat and this jersey.
I was gonna say I said that.
This mustache, I wouldn't.
I said that in jest, but it's actually not that far from the truth.
I want to just say too. I hope everyone appreciates the past couple episodes we've aired with him dressed like this because he has been wandering town all day today. We ate at Roy Rogers and he was dressed like this. We went to like Quick Check. He was dressed like.
Well, you know what's
I was dressed with this mustache,
and it's nowhere. It's 30 days out from Halloween when we're filming this.
No one even confuse me as being dressed for Halloween.
And you know what's also very funny? This series of Bootsy guest spots has been kicked off directly after an episode where we bashed him.
Yeah, I came back. Yeah, I agreed to this prior, and I just wish I heard that podcast before I did.
He's been, when we're gone, he just urinates in all sections of the attic.
Yeah, well, you know, he keeps leaving the attic. I don't know what's going on downstairs. I might like go to bed tonight. And, why is my bed all wet? What?
It was all those negative things about Doc Gooden that I heard you say.
You know, Doc Gooden was great once he reached the Yankees, but prior to that. All right, so I have been Eric,
and I used to be Tig,
and this guy here, our guest,
and I will forever be Keith.
Thank you for listening, folks. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.